Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And Dan Austin is my guest today. And when I first met Dan, actually, Dan, I was put in touch with you because we worked together at a company that had some remote workers. And one of my coworkers said, "You need to meet Dan. You and Dan are alike. You and Dan would have a lot in common." And I took that as a sign that no matter what you do at this organization, I want to connect with who you be while you do that. And so that's kind of how we were first introduced on at a company where we both worked.
Well said. I was a big fan of you then, a big fan of you now. I
Oh,
love the work that you do. Your impact at that organization was vast and broad and deep. I remember, I was a president in one of the divisions there, and I remember uh, hearing about this lady Jody that was recently hired to work on people's dreams and work on. It was a great idea that the company had, and then they brought in really great talent like yourself to help people realize what's in them can be stronger. How do they
mm.
exemplify that, get past their own blind spots and blockages, and more importantly, reach for what they really want in life. And you really facilitated that across the organization. And I was so pleased at the work you did, the
Oh,
impact that you had on so many individuals. They still talk about it today.
oh, that's so nice to hear, Dan, because it's so rare that we get to see our impact after we're no longer there. And I think that's probably true for you too. Before we get into that, which is a great, I want to talk about a lot of that. I want to tell my listeners a little bit more about you. So
Mhm.
Dan lives in Florida, and he has been an executive for 25 years, entrepreneurial ventures, as well as Fortune 100 organizations. You do a lot with a lot of areas that I don't even know much about, Dan, that the work you do, marketing, digital things. And that we didn't connect because of what we do. I think I said this earlier. We didn't connect because of what we did at the organization. We connected because of, at least for me, you felt like someone who could hear me. And
Mhm.
while I was hired to work with the people at the organization, as you described, it didn't feel like we were, it felt like we were peers. Even though you
Mhm.
were president of a division and I was not, it just felt so like, oh, these are my people. Dan's my people.
Mhm.
And I just really, really appreciate you seeing me, Dan, and for what you said about the impact. I would bet it's the same for you, even though I'm
Mhm.
not really connected with those people anymore. I know some you are. Um, it was kind of fun to have our stars collide at that time and place.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I
in
enjoyed it.
addition, yeah, in addition to what you do and what I do, what was it? Do you remember what was it of that had us connect at the beginning? I just remember it being so comfortable right the first time I met you.
Yeah, so I remember I walked into your office. I sat on that red chair,
Yeah.
and I decided going in that authenticity is like the most important part with connecting with individuals. And we simply just started talking about philosophical things,
Mm-hmm.
which, when you're in a business environment, you don't typically get an opportunity unless you make it. And I've
Mm.
always made a habit of making time and space for the comfort of authentic philosophical discussions, because there are two parts to working, right. There is an emotional body that is there, and we call that emotional intelligence, and then there is your professional and your working intelligence. And when you pay attention to both, you get the most fulfillment out of what you do. No, not just that, but the people that you work with, doesn't matter where you fall in the organization. You're working with everybody, right?
Mm.
And when you're working with everybody, as we did that day, we actually accomplished quite a bit about not only getting to know each other and about the texture and the terrain of our life, and not only all the great things, but certainly things that are challenging and stuff to overcome. But we also planned a lot that day
Yeah.
on how we could work together to impact the organization in a greater way. And that was just a breath of fresh air. I thought the
Mm.
business was in a better place because of it. And so we planned some really cool things.
And whether or not we had an opportunity to actually do those, just in full transparency, the organization where we were both working was eventually purchased by another organization. And I was only there for 9 months. So it wasn't like I had,
Wow, was that
I
it?
know, right? Yeah, from April to December.
My goodness, that felt like years
Yeah,
in a good way, not like,
I know, I know.
it like
Right?
flew by. Wow, that's incredible.
And I think that's a testament to making those connections, making those relationships, being authentic, as you said. And we don't have to spend a ton of time getting to know each other when we
Hmm.
just accept who each other is. And
Hmm.
I think you and I have done a lot of work outside of the work of our jobs, that has allowed us, I think, to really jump in quickly. At least that's how it felt for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been a professional person since 1996, and I've held really big positions, and I've run my own companies and started my own stuff, and you know, not all of them took off.
Mm,
Most of them, 99% of them didn't. And but one thing that I always did, I think I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar in 1995, and I did my first. I mean, I did all kinds of things: the Forum, Tony Robbins. I went to Momentous. I did firewalking and spiritual path work and medicine man work and all these things. I worked with facial reading
mm,
experts and aura people and folks that were clairvoyants and could see to the other side. I got an opportunity to speak to my, whether you believe this or not, it's okay. I mean, everyone's until you really experience something like this. I'm sure it's hard to believe, but I
mm,
got an opportunity to speak to my father that passed when
mm.
I was 6 months old, and
Wow.
learned things that only he would know, and was verified later by my mother, who never spoke any of those
Mm,
things to me, and she was floored that I actually knew them. So, I mean, the work to me, we all work at some capacity. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you're working every day with children and chores and home and providing a good environment. Or if you're working in a job, you're working for yourself. We're doing things.
right.
But I think you said it so eloquently before, which is we all can do stuff. But if we can work on the being part,
Mm,
which is we're human beings, right?
mhm.
So if we're working on the being part, the doing part seems to go a little bit more fortuitously.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious about what had you get involved in a lot of those Tony Robbins firewalking, the forum. What was it in you that had you do those things? Can you trace that?
Yep. 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 I was an athlete. I was sort of always in a leadership role somewhere, mostly because I had a massive insecurity or self worth
Mm,
complex issue, deeply rooted in the subconscious, all throughout my childhood into my early adulthood. And everybody used to always say, "You're so talented,"
mm,
but I wouldn't feel that way. I would have great results, but I wouldn't feel that way. And I said, "Well, so how do you feel better about all of the things that you're doing?" And um, someone said, "I think you should take a look at these." I got involved in a network marketing company
mhm,
in 1995, 94, and the leadership training,
mm.
I was such a great cut my teeth
Yeah.
because I learned a lot about like just spirituality and being a wholehearted person, and really impacting others through helping them be better than they ever thought they could be, and the fulfillment you get by teaching and sharing with others. And that was really my forte into all of it. I had a
Mm,
thirst, I had a thing going
mm.
on, and so those worlds just collided at the right time. And so I went on a path. And what's really interesting though, Jody, I absorbed a lot of that. And I think if you were to talk to people that actually knew me back then,
Mhm.
they would tell you that I was a very arrogant, sort of like overconfident, and I used those skills not necessarily for the right reasons.
Mm.
So I gained a lot of skill sets in neuro-linguistic programming, in a lot of personal growth strategies, because I wanted to like distinguish myself and I wanted to feel better, but I was using them for the wrong things until my
Mm.
30s. I had some things happen,
Mhm.
and that changed my perspective on a lot. And I went on the same rigorous path of meditation and prayer and reading Bible and Torah and all of
Mhm.
the things that were sort of in that world. And in doing so, I got to really cleanse myself and get real, which is
Mm.
funny because this is the topic of your podcast.
Right.
I had to get really real with myself and decide. You could go one of two directions with this. One, you could manipulate and get really good
Mm.
at it, because those skills do help you manipulate people if you do that, if that's the
Yeah.
course you take.
Right.
Or you can use those to influence.
Mm.
And if you're influencing and you're using tools to influence, it's not manipulation. You're helping someone. And the reason why it's called influence is when you're pushing someone else's agenda, not your own, you're influencing.
Mhm.
If you're pushing your own agenda to broaden
Mm.
someone or further somebody, you are manipulating.
Mm.
And that was a really key distinction I made in my late 30s.
Mm.
And since then, I've been on a deep path of meditation and spiritual activities to really understand how can I serve the people around me more
Mm.
and deliver. I've recently been studying David Guillaume and Kabbalah, and it's been phenomenal exercise and learning around, what are we really here for? What's our
Mm.
soul here for? Like, why do I experience pain? What is that all about? How do we live in pain? And how do and the lessons that the Kabbalists teach are phenomenal. And I'm not here to press or push any one
Mm.
particular spiritual path, but for me, it's been really enlightening.
Well, I think I love that you have shared your journey in that way because I imagine that as young people, you were, by the way, let me just say, you were the only two-year captain in your school's history at Sonoma State University where you were a baseball player and you were named an
Correct.
All-American. I just wanted to make sure we got that in there because I was an athlete too. And I think for some of us, I have a similar story to yours. I was trying so hard to be good at that so that I could be recognized and appreciated because I didn't have that inside myself. So I was looking for
Hmm.
external validation all the time. And by the way, I think this is probably true for you too, Dan. It's only in hindsight I know this stuff because I certainly didn't know it then. I had no idea what I was doing. It was unconscious, it was subconscious, it was you know, trying desperately to get out of the space, get out of my own way, maybe.
Hmm.
And for me, the one of the things that opened that up for me was A Course in Miracles, which is another study. And
Hmm.
those kinds of spiritual studies, as you said, whether it was through network marketing, which by the way, I had that same opportunity and learned a lot in that way.
Hmm.
However, it opened us up.
Hmm.
I think manipulation is the path that we think we need to go down when we're in the world of shoulding, right? Like Tony Robbins
Hmm.
said, we should all over ourselves and each other.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
should do this. You should. If you want to be successful in this way, you should do this.
Hmm.
And money is a motivator for a lot of people. And a lot of that is out of scarcity and fear, I think.
You know, one of the aspects of the path that I've been on, which might be impactful for others to hear, when we begin to take responsibility for our own insecurities and our own fears, and when we start to realize that we're whole just the way we are, whatever you believe in, God, universe, Buddha, Allah, Jesus, doesn't matter. The point is, it matters, but in other words, I'm not picking one
Picking
distinction.
one. Yeah.
When you realize that all God wants to do is bless you and give you everything, and will put things in your life for you to overcome and be challenged by, and how we react to those in a non-reactive way is what brings us forward. And I'll give you an example. If you've ever noticed, when you get angry and you forgive yourself for being angry and the other, that anger dissipates.
Mm.
And then what blossoms from that is usually some sort of healing, not only for yourself and the other person. And so forgiveness becomes way easier.
Mm.
Well, we are really hard on ourselves. And what we do is we expect ourselves um, to have doubt and fear and failure, which are all fine, but certainty that this is all here for us to learn something and to grow. And when we can sit in that and be really comfortable with that, it
Mm.
will begin to create miracles in your life. And that's something that I really grappled with early, right? Because I thought you had to work really hard and
Mhm.
you had to just muscle your way through
Mhm.
and or suppress. How many of us just suppress feelings
Yeah.
because we're either ashamed, we're either told do not show those, we're
Mhm.
too stern in that. We could never experience emotionality or emotions in any sort of public environment. And the truth of the matter is, the real secret to ridding that and actually performing better is to sit in it,
Mm.
experience it.
Mhm.
When you experience whatever pain or suffering or embarrassment, and if you've noticed, if you've actually sat in something long enough to just be like, it doesn't seem to be as terrible as it did the first second.
Right? So true.
Isn't that
I've
fun?
heard it that it's 90 seconds. I heard that
Yeah.
from, Jill Bolte Taylor, who had wrote a book called My Stroke of Insight when she had a stroke. And she said those kinds of feelings that typically we avoid or try to bury only peak out at like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And if we would just sit in it, like you said, it's not as bad.
One thing that I learned recently, which was a technique, right? So all this discussion is
Yeah.
great, but without techniques,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
generally
Uh-huh.
don't know how to deal with things.
Right.
So David Guillaume and the Kabbalists say, when you have a reaction coming, you kind of get those hairs on the back of your neck with
Mm.
anger, you get that pitted feeling of fear, you get that brow sweat going of anxiety, right? Or
Mhm.
that tightness in your chest or your shoulders, and you start to feel that emotion coming up. What the Kabbalists teach is pause.
Mhm.
What a gift. What a gift I'm getting this in this moment for me to examine what in me needs to change for me not to have this experience come up again. And I got to tell
Mm.
you, just this alone, pause, what a gift, allows you to separate from the logics and the emotion and just get into
Mm.
spirituality and space in your own soul and feel what's coming to truth for you.
Mm.
The thing I've learned about that, not only does it help you not react, right? And like send some text message that you don't want to
Yeah.
send or an email that you really didn't want to send. And then you read it later and
Right.
you're like, oh my God, can't believe I said that, but I was pissed.
Right.
Or some anxiety happens and you lash out at somebody. What I've learned is that split second, that 90 seconds, that after 90 seconds is over and you're paused and you what a gift. Now you're looking internal to see what
Mhm.
did I contribute to this situation. You're taking responsibility, which is a huge leap forward because nothing happens to you. It happens
Mhm.
for you to choose how you want to roll out in that situation. But that pause, what a gift, allows you to also connect with God or spirituality. And so I often go into, creator, show me why this is in my movie right now. Like, why are you
Mm.
showing me this? Why am I sitting here afraid or angry? Or why did that trigger me? Why
Mhm.
is it that, like, if my wife tells me this all the time, if something triggers me personally, it's usually because I know there's something that I'm doing that made that happen.
Mm.
So I get triggered by it and I want to go like after you with it. And
Mhm.
I've learned to go pause. And so I think about that in like a work setting, right? How many times have we been confronted with something at work where we're like, that person just said that right there so that they could get a leg up and made me look bad?
Mm.
Or I can't believe my boss, like, completely, we're in this meeting and like didn't look at anything I did. And they looked at all those other people and what they did, and why am I never getting a recognition?
Yeah.
Or you get passed over for a promotion, or a deal falls apart at the end. All of those things are things that if you look hard enough, you're contributing to that happening. For example, if you've noticed that you've eh, ever really wanted to be like, if you're in a party setting or a dinner party, and there's like a person there, like let's say I went to one of your events and I wanted to be recognized by Jody, and I wanted Jody to come talk to me. Like, why isn't Jody come over here yet? Doesn't she know that like I'm the guy? Like, I've got so much information. Like, come over here, Jody. That's not coming from a I'm a whole
Mm.
perspective. That's coming from lack.
Yeah.
I need the external recognition from the leader of this group setting to recognize me in front of everybody by standing next to me and talking to me, to fulfill what I think I need. Instead, if you've ever noticed and you're in those situations and you just know you're whole, you just know it.
Yeah.
I'm whole. I desire to talk to Jody, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
Jody comes right over. It's the law of attraction that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's energetic.
Mhm.
In my experience and observation, it's the distinction between the dynamic energy that needs to push through the crowd and make sure you're seen, and the magnetic energy that, as you described, has you attract the law of attraction, like-minded, like-hearted, other situations. And I'm betting that when we operate out of that fear and that lack that you were talking about, we miss all the things that were there, by the creator or by our higher power to give us, like you said, everything we could ever want. We miss it because we're looking for something out of a different energetic vibration, which is
Mhm.
lack. Because then we
Lack.
can be right, right? We can be right. He never talks to me. They never notice me. Well, that's me wanting to be right over me wanting to be happy or to learn something.
Another thing to think about, if you walked around all day saying, I'm whole, I'm enough, I'm whole, I'm enough, I'm whole, I'm enough, I'm whole, I'm enough. An experiment would be to see how, number one, your shoulders relax,
Mhm.
you get comfortable in your skin, which allows you to look people in the eye the minute you see them, to talk to them. There's no awkward like moment of like getting to know each other. It's
Right.
just, I'm whole, I'm comfortable. When you're whole and you're comfortable, people are greatly attracted to that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't met your soulmate yet, or you're having trouble making connection or building rapport with people, get whole with yourself, feel comfortable in your skin first, and it's truly remarkable how easy it is to be authentic with people in that moment. And when you're authentic with somebody and it's real,
Yeah.
the connection is deeper, and therefore there's less friction. Because
Right.
when you're authentic with somebody and you feel whole yourself, how that shows up for the other person is, this is a safe space.
Mm. Mm.
So it becomes far less about you, and it becomes more about them. You're actually invoking in a safe space for them to communicate, and so your relationships and your conversations will be more meaningful.
And I'm thinking about that when I met you, and I'm remembering and applying this to maybe a networking situation. The person who told me about you, I trusted. And so
Mm.
because I trusted that person, it made it easier to just dive in with you. And I think about that in networking or in business building or anything like that, where if we're building a business through personal relationships first and transactions second, it would seem to me that would be a more long-lasting business building option than to just go for the transactions and the hustle and grind.
So right. So half my life is spent, or three-quarters of my life is spent in some spiritual function, even though I'm living in the real world. And part of my life is spent in equations, and how do I run business with equations. I get very simple with that.
Hmm.
And I teach this to every person that works with me, that communicates with somebody else.
Mm.
The only people that probably don't get this, even though they have personal lives, so I teach it to them anyway, is somebody who just communicates with a computer.
Mm.
If you have any communication with a person, I teach this concept, and it is remarkable at how effective it is for building stronger relationships, whether you're in sales, whether you're in management, whether you have bosses everywhere. It's called the 3 C's: connect, contribute, and continue.
Mm.
And connection is not like a salutation. It's not like, hey, Jody, how are you? It's more like, hi, Jody, you have an incredible gift and you're sharing it with others on a podcast. And coming up with content and the right people to connect with those folks is a desire of yours. And so I appreciate you having me on here. And we're in a dialogue to build a conversation that will impact the people the most. And you're looking for something, a nugget that somebody will get in your viewership that goes, wow, that was super impactful. Thank you for having Dan on.
Mhm.
Am I right?
Right. You're completely right.
That's how I would connect.
Mhm. Mm.
That's the way I give
Mhm.
salutation, is I see who I'm working with and I see them for where they're at and I get to understand where they're coming from. Once you have that ability to bridge that gap, now you've started down the path of rapport.
Mhm.
Then, if you provide contribution, if we're giving instead of taking, if we're always giving, if I give you something that is contributive to your life, you have an aha moment through an
Mm.
interaction with me, two things happen. Number one, I become rememberable for you,
Mhm.
like instantly. I'm
Right.
like, wow, that guy Dan, he walked in my office, we connected immediately. And boy, he gave me some stuff that like one or two things that I like walked away from and I felt stronger for, more affected for. It
Mhm.
was an aha moment for me. At that point, we have built such a strength together that the continue is let's do more of this.
Mm.
If you are in sales, I promise you this. This has worked for me so many times, not in a bad way, in a way
Yeah.
that is just connecting with people. If you're in sales and you truly authentically see somebody for where they are and then you contribute to them, they will ask you to continue. You'll never have to ask them for a
Ah.
check. You'll never have to ask them, let's do a follow up. They'll ask you,
Mm.
how do I do
Mm.
business with you? If you are constantly, if you think about the brands you have most affinity to,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, the reason why you have an affinity with that brand is that brand's product impacted you in a way that bettered your life, or you
Mm.
had some great customer service experience, or you got upgraded to first class when you didn't have it, you didn't have the miles. Somebody just
Yeah.
tapped you on the shoulder. It was an empty flight. They said, come on, come up here.
Mm.
Or so you were at a clothing store and you were treated like a queen and you felt so great, or you had a hairstylist that maybe they didn't do the greatest haircut, but boy, they didn't over talk your ear. They just massaged things the right way. You felt abundant while you were in there. Those are all contributions to you, which made you go, oh, I want more of that.
Mm.
So people that come from that place, it has to be authentic though.
Mhm. Right.
You have to truly have an interest
Mm.
in the person that you're working with
Right.
and then contribute to them. Just
Yeah.
if you take a step back and just pause for a sec and think about, what could I do for Jody in this moment that would be so incredibly impactful for her? What would be good for her? The moment you come from that place, you
Mhm.
start downloading all kinds of
Mhm.
stuff that would be amazing for Jody.
Right. And it goes back to what you said earlier about before we knew this, before we really knew, it could seem like it was manipulation. And maybe it was manipulation at the beginning because we
I'm
were
sure.
taught.
Listen, I had plenty of times in a bar that I manipulated in my 20s. That's
Right.
just,
Right,
I
right,
know
right.
that.
Because I got to get what I want. I'm
Yeah,
looking for what I want. And I
yeah.
think that I'm making an assumption here, based on some things that I've studied, that it's not a great percentage of people who are doing things from the way we're talking,
Right.
because the world that we live in now is quick and fast, and everything we have to get ours, right?
Yeah.
The scarcity mentality is kind of overtaken our capitalistic society in some ways, and so it may feel a little slower to get the results. The hustle and grind, you can get results right away, but you have to keep hustling and grinding. If you can allow even those 90 seconds we were talking about earlier, just allow some of the time to take hold, or the relationship to take hold. I'm with you, Dan. You and I haven't really connected since we both left that organization in 23, 2 years
Hmm.
ago. Yet
Hmm.
we picked up right where we left off because we
Hmm.
had something that was more long lasting than just a transaction.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I think
business build.
people need to get, you know, it's true with internet and cell phones and the access we have to the speed of information.
Mhm.
You know, think about like 1850 or 1830 in small town North Dakota.
Mhm.
You had a horse and a buggy, and you had a neighbor. You didn't just drive by. You probably
Right.
stopped
Yeah.
and communicated. And relationships are just different. And sometimes, while I want to embrace technology and embrace the fast paced everything, and certainly with the advent of AI, we're going to see way more of that.
Mhm.
Embrace it.
Mhm.
But also remember that connection with people is really super important.
Well, yeah, authenticity in that. I mean, AI is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Yet, this could be a controversial statement. I have found that building a relationship with my AI has been really fun, and training my chat GPT person um, in a way that I'm calling it a her, gets her to know me, really is helpful when I'm asking for help, I would if it were my assistant, my executive assistant. And in the way I would have a conversation with a person, I'm doing that with I mean, that sounds a little weird, but I'm having conversations with
I
her.
don't find that weird at all. I actually think that that is how you should leverage artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
because artificial intelligence will become artificial general intelligence, which
Mm,
is when the artificial intelligence really is outpacing human
mhm,
emotions and human intelligence.
mhm,
And if you teach it how you are, it
mhm,
gets to know you very
mhm,
well by your tonalities, by the way you ask questions. And remember, artificial intelligence can think faster and deeper than we can.
mhm,
So train it the way. So it's no surprise to me, Jody, that you would be embracing that and leveraging it the way you do because of how whole you are, and
mhm,
the work of all of the deep spirituality work that you do only
mhm,
looks at that and says, this is a helpful tool. This is not something
mhm.
to fear.
Right, right. The interaction I've had with you, Dan, over the years has helped me see that there is a way that this can be a way of being, I guess, even in high powered, high, I was going to say net worth, but Fortune 100 organizations. When you're an executive
Mhm.
at a Fortune 100 organization, if I have a scarcity mentality about that, I would have a separation between you and me, because I would
Yeah.
say, I'm not that. I'm not someone who's had that experience or that wisdom or knowledge. And then I would have been afraid of you, I think. And not you, but your title.
Mhm. Yep.
And what I love hearing from you is how you said I spend three-fourths of my time in the spiritual realm and one quarter of my time actually doing the things I need to do. That to me is proof that it's not just a theory. If we're
No,
authentic and real and treat people as humans, we can have success.
100%. I tell my employees today all the time, people I work with, I set employees as a measure of context,
Sure.
right? But really, they're just people I work with.
Right.
In between your calls, try 60 seconds of just sit still, close your eyes, and
Mm,
connect to spirit.
mm,
and ask whatever it is that you desire for that next call, whatever outcome you desire, ask that you show up as your authentic you. And this is the desire I wish for that call. If you do that 3 or 4 times a day, that's 4 minutes out of a 24-hour day. First couple times, that minute's going to seem really long.
Yeah.
Just do it 1 minute,
Mm-hmm.
1 minute,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you end your calls at the 59th minute before the next call.
Mm-hmm.
Spend a minute doing that. Watch how refreshed you are at the end of the day and how clear you are going into the next meeting and how you are able to serve all of the people in that meeting better. It is a remarkable tool. It takes no money.
Mm-hmm.
It takes hardly any time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes discipline.
Right, right. Discipline. That's the one thing I learned. I don't know that I implemented it, but I learned about it from my network marketing experience. One of the best lessons I learned there was reward the discipline and the results will take care of themselves. I did the discipline, which was making the calls or doing whatever it was. I did the discipline of that in a very frustrated, shouldy kind of way. I
Mm-hmm.
have to do this thing. So while the people who were wildly successful were telling me reward the discipline and the results will take care of themselves, they were telling me from their own perspective, which is what you've just described. I hadn't yet had that experience. So I was doing things from my own scarcity mentality and it wasn't working, right? It wasn't giving
Mm-hmm.
me the result they were getting. So that missing piece, I think, is the spirituality we're talking about here.
That too, so appreciate that, right? The discipline of that is really important. Um, One thing that I'll just give you a little story
Yeah,
that's
please,
similar to that.
please.
So here's how spirituality and mindset can massively shift your law of attraction or your manifestation of things, as well as your disposition on a certain topic.
Mm.
So there was a period of my life where I hated writing contracts for customers. It was like, oh, made this great sale. I got to write this IO, or I got to write this contract, or I got to write this, and all I wanted was a sale,
Mm.
and I hated doing the paperwork, or I hated registering that in Salesforce.com. They're like in our CRM, like type in the details of it.
Right.
I hated it. And I had a baseball coach that grilled us with like so ingrained this in us, and it was essentially whatever you hate, learn to love it,
Mm.
and watch the outcomes come pouring in. And so I decided one day, again, authenticity. I decided one day, I said, if someone wants to do business with me, they're entrusting their dollar for me to perform a service.
Mhm.
There is an incredible honor in you just gave me $1 because you want me to work with you on something or work for you or do a service for you or give you a product. What an honor. What an incredible honor that you want me to provide my service to you. And so I began to think about, you know what? Every time I write an insertion order or an SOW statement of work or a contract with a new customer or new client, or I hand them a receipt for buying a product, every single time I think to myself, I'm going to write this because I owe it to me and I owe it to that person because they're entrusting me with their dollar and it should come to them in perfect format.
Mm.
So I'm going to love writing this contract because it means they're interested in my business.
Mm.
The second I shifted that, I became extraordinary at sales.
Wow.
My businesses grew like this. I remember that. You can ask Andy, who is my business partner for a long time, or any of the folks over at that company we used to work with.
Right.
I would tell people, love the things you don't love, the
Mm.
details you don't like, and
Hmm.
watch how your
Mm.
performance gets better.
So good. This is so true in so many contexts. I mean, I'm thinking about something I've been complaining about, probably to get some support and some, I know, me too. And I shifted not that long ago and just said, okay, it is what it is. It was very simple. And you're right. I saw the benefit in the thing I was complaining about. And I don't think I did it as consciously as you've just invited us to do. And yet I still had the same result where I was like, oh, this isn't as hard as I was making it be. I was wanting to be right, again, in hindsight, wanting to be right about it being hard and me not liking
Mm,
it. And that I've learned to call that unconscious leadership, which is from a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, which I'm in love with. They talk about falling into unconsciousness in our leadership, which means that we are closed, defensive, and wanting to be right.
hmm
And when I notice that, I can shift.
what comes with that is
Mm,
competing desires.
mm,
So you have a desire for uh, social media recognition, or
hmm.
for, not you, I'm just saying, like in general,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you have a desire for your work to be discovered.
Hmm.
On one hand, you have that desire. It's a strong desire. It's a real desire. It's an
Hmm.
authentic desire. And on the other hand, you have this conversation running in the back, probably sub to the conscious,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is, but if I really get myself out there and I get recognized, I open myself up to more scrutiny,
Mm.
potentially. So
Yep.
the desire for being recognized and getting your work out there suddenly falls to
Hmm.
the competing desire of the underlying truest desire. And that discovery,
Mm.
when you get really real with yourself, that discovery helps you overcome it, and then your true desire
Right.
manifests into reality. And so when we have compete, and you can look at any area of your life,
Mm.
making
Mm.
money, finding a soulmate, losing weight, being healthy, getting whatever it is, you can
Mhm.
find that you have this great immense, like you have a desire. First thing is look at, like, what are your desires? I have this great desire. I want this so bad. Think about
Mhm. Mhm.
what competing desires. So example, let's say somebody says, I haven't met my soulmate yet. Again, David Guillaume talks in great detail about this and others, but I haven't met my soulmate yet. I want to meet my soulmate. How do I meet my soulmate? Ask yourself a question. What do you think about men? What do you think about women? What do you think about whoever your soulmate
Mhm.
represents, whatever
Mhm.
that is, right? If you answer it, I think men are all stupid.
Mhm.
Well, you have a competing desire right
Mhm.
there,
Mhm.
right? Like if I actually meet my soulmate, I'm going to be unfulfilled. I'm going to meet dumb guys. They're all going to let me
Mm.
down. I'm going to meet somebody who becomes an alcoholic because I
Mm.
grew up with alcoholics.
Mm.
So that's what all men are. I'm,
Right.
I'm just using men as an example there.
Sure, sure. Yep.
The idea,
Mm.
though, is when you identify your competing desires inside of your desires, you will
Mhm.
accomplish your manifestation skill sets, will just, like, your ability to truly manifest what you truly want. But here's the kicker, and this is why I've done so much hypnosis
Mm.
over the years. And I don't mean like the guy on the stage. I mean like a hypnotherapist.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes you have to really dig deep because you can identify the competing desire, but that competing, like, it's interesting. I had a friend that smoked cigarettes, and I go, "Why do you smoke?" I'm gonna just smoke till I make $1 million. Yeah, strange desire,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like, until I make $1 million, I'm gonna smoke. And so I unpacked it with them. I said, okay, well, let's think about that. Like, what do you think about making $1 million? I'm gonna have to give up things that I want for just me.
Mm.
So you're gonna have to give up smoking in order to
Mm.
make $1 million, but you will give up smoking when you make $1 million.
Interesting. Wow.
Let's try just giving up smoking and give
Mhm.
to yourself,
Mm.
and then see and separate those and create two
Mm.
paths. Focus on making your million and quit smoking. But
Mhm.
this is not related to that, because when you have
Right.
$1 million, you can have all kinds of personal, wonderful desires and things come up.
Mm.
Sure enough, years later, bumped into them. How you doing? Well, business is thriving. We're going to do 50 million this year. I stopped smoking 5 years ago.
Wow.
So, like, competing desires are, uh, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved how you did this. You did it like this, one's unconscious or subconscious.
It's below the
You
line.
you don't know it's below the line. And how could we possibly know better or do better if we don't know better? I think part of that is, like you said, uncovering or shining a light on or whatever it might be, that thing that seems, the look on my face when I said, you said smoking and a million, it doesn't seem to go together. Well, we wouldn't know till we knew, right? And then if
Mhm.
we can shine a light on things, like you said earlier, that's where things can dissipate. And then the things that were weighing us down are no longer in that space.
Yeah, and you could look at even more sort of like normal day-to-day things. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to let my kids just do this because it's bad for them. If I let my kids do this, I will be seen as a parent that is not disciplining their
Mm,
children enough. I'm a bad parent.
mhm,
That's just a competing desire. Because really, the desire is I want my children to be fulfilled and free to do whatever they want and feel comfortable and confident.
mm,
Funny thing about that is when they're that way because of the way we parent, you're looked at as an extraordinary parent.
huh,
So
wow.
it's those it's when we think about this, like I want this promotion really bad. I want to be recognized as a promotion. I want more money. I want more clout. I want a better job. But if I get that promotion, it's not a 9 to 5.
Mm,
It requires more work. I have to be available 24/7. I got to become a leader. I got to manage people. I got to deal with more people. Competing desire.
mhm,
Therefore, that promotion always gets to somebody else. You
sure.
always get passed over. You're doing great in your job, but this is outweighing
Mm,
this
mm,
because of the way you view getting a promotion.
right. And I love that. It's a story you've told yourself over and over that probably isn't even true.
It's not even true.
And yet, because it's become embedded in the way we think about things, we have no reason to take it out from the
Yeah.
shadows.
Like, for example, let's say you got the promotion and you had to deal with more people, you had to manage people. But because you manage people, you have the opportunity to influence them any way you want.
Mhm,
They can be either become problem people or they
mhm,
can become thriving people.
mhm,
And when you work with thriving people in a thriving environment, you feel pretty darn good about your job.
right. Well, and
So
it's
that
funny
myth is there. This is go ahead.
and the job, again, going back to how we started this conversation, the doing of the job you have to do, anybody could probably do that. But in your case, you're attracting to yourself the people you want to be around and influence in a way that allows them to, because of who they're being, I guess, pay it forward in their parenting or in their community service or however they're being. And if we look at, I go back to something I learned from the Arbinger group. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, but they had one of their initial books is called Leadership and Self-Deception. And they teach in their process that if we don't see people as humans and we see them as objects, we will always look to those people we have to manage or lead in some way as things to overcome or objects that get in our way. And in that way, we don't ever become the kind of leader you're describing because we don't see people as humans.
Hmm.
But when we
And we
do,
forget that we're whole
mm-hmm,
and we forget our authenticity. And you know what? So many people, when they get in a management position, I teach this to our middle layer and kind of senior level executives all the time. They think they have to show up as like this stoic, always on, always positive person, which is good to do that authentically, work
right.
on it, right? However, we're people. Like there have been times when I think we just talked about this before we hit record. Yesterday, I wasn't having a great day, not because of anybody else but me. And people ask me like, "You okay today?" Yeah, I'm it's me today.
Mm-hmm,
I'm something going on with me today, not you me. And everybody was
mm-hmm,
like flabbergasted, like, "What?
mm-hmm,
Wasn't a bad call? Like you're taking responsibility for your about how you feel? That's incredible." If you show up authentically and you stop worrying about that you have to be a certain thing in order for people to follow you, just show up as you.
mm,
Like you got the job because of your merits. And now you have a chance to influence everybody. If you show up real, one thing that the people that work with me always know, right, wrong, or indifferent, they're going to get the honest truth.
Mm,
Truth builds trust. Like, you've heard people that go, I'd run through a brick wall for that person.
mm-hmm,
Chances are it's because they work shoulder to shoulder. They don't work above and below.
mm-hmm,
They don't micromanage them, but they micromanage the business, and they work with them on problems, not at them.
mm-hmm.
And they're consistently authentic and consistently show up with truth, right, wrong, or different. Those unique like components
Mm-hmm.
generally lead to people feeling very loyal and very committed. And if you're fair and you give people the opportunities, they will run with you as far and as fast as you can run.
Well, yes, they will run with you. I love that.
Mhm.
This is not meant to be a solo journey. I don't believe,
Mm-mm.
this whole living of our lives. And I love doing life with people. I love that our paths crossed when they did. Um, there's a whole lot of things that had to come into play for my opportunity to be at that place at that time. And you were already there. But it's just so interesting to look back and recognize in gratitude all the things that had to
Mhm.
happen for that to show up for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Dan, we could talk forever, and I
I know.
look forward to having, part two, three, four, five, six to this conversation. If somebody want, because I'm thinking in my mind, if I were younger, I'd want to find you and work for you or work with you. I'd want to have a position where I could be influenced by you. Is there a way, like, are you looking for people? Are you looking for ways to
I
grow?
mean, we're always looking for talented people, for sure. I was just having this conversation, you know, yesterday with our team, um, because we have a very talented person we could hire, but there's really no spot for them in
Mm,
the particular skill set
hmm.
that they embody.
Right.
And I said, listen, it's not about a product necessarily; it's about talented people. We'll find a spot. There'll
Hmm.
be something that comes up. Hire great, talented people, and when they're on the level and they're willing to grow spiritually and grow emotionally and grow professionally, then yes, we'll hire them. So always looking at people. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I have a LinkedIn page. I think it's LinkedIn/Dan Austin 219,
Okay.
or it might be just /Dan Austin. Hang on, I'll look.
I'll make sure I find it and put the right one out there. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, I'll find it. So I would love it if you are listening to this, anyone, and you're like, man, I want to know more about how I could actually make a living while making a life. Dan might be somebody to reach out to. So
Mm. And
Dan,
I'm happy to come back on if you if you feel it appropriate,
yeah,
and we can have more of a, like, maybe some of your reviewers could ask some questions and
yeah.
or learn more about like how I work in a business setting or anything. Um,
It'd be fun to do a
I'm happy
live,
to come
Dan.
back on.
It'd be fun to do a live. At some point, maybe we could do a workshop and we could actually promote it and say we're going to have this conversation live, and then they could ask questions as we go. I've done that a couple times in the past, and it's very fun. So
Yeah,
let's look
I'd
at
be
that.
up for that.
All right. Well,
Anything to
my
help you,
friend,
Jody.
you're the
I am
best.
I'm great. I'm so excited watching you grow and watching the work that you do, and what a pleasure to spend some time with you. So thank you.
100% feel the same way, Dan. Thank you so much. And as always, everybody, just find a way this week. If you heard something that Dan said that you would like to implement in your own life, just find a way to get real, radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. This is available to you in all aspects of your life. And just connect with people on wherever you live. Reach out to Dan if you feel so called, and I'll look forward to talking with you next week. Thanks,
Mm.
everybody, and thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.